With just 24 days left until the election, the momentum in the 2024 presidential race has taken a sharp and unexpected turn, putting Donald Trump in a strong position. As we stand now, Trump has effectively pulled ahead in all 7 of the critical swing states that are set to decide the outcome of this election. What's astonishing about this development is that just a month ago, Trump was trailing in nearly every one of these pivotal states. But now, at the most opportune moment, the former president is surging in the polls. The most recent election forecast by Polymarkets reflects this surge, giving Trump a 55 find of winning the election, marking his highest odds since early August. In this analysis, we'll dig into the newest polling data that has propelled Trump into the lead and explore what this shift means for the outcome of the election just a few weeks from now. Along with analyzing the polling numbers, I'll also break down each of these key swing states individually, mapping out how Trump's recent polling gains might translate into electoral victories. Looking at the broader electoral map, I've already filled in the solid states, those that are safely in either the Republican or Democratic columns. However, there are a few additional states that, while still competitive, are unlikely to sway the election one way or the other. These states are not the true battlegrounds. Ultimately, this election will boil down to 7 states: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. These are the real power players in this election, and though there are 50 states in total, only these 7 will decide who becomes the next president. Right now, Trump is either leading or tied in nearly all of them, setting the stage for a potentially decisive victory. We'll break down these races state by state, starting in the Sun Belt, and then moving up to the Midwest, where some of the closest and most contentious contests are playing out. Before we get into the details, hit the subscribe button like this video and leave your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for your support. First, let's take a closer look at Nevada. Donald Trump has now taken a slim lead in the Silver State, pulling ahead by 0.2 according to the latest polls. His surge was particularly bolstered by a recent Wall Street Journal poll that showed him with a sick led over Kamala Harris, who took over for Joe Biden after he dropped out. If we look at the polling trends in Nevada, Harris had been leading the state since the end of August, but Trump has managed to overtake her, and he officially regained the lead just yesterday. This narrow lead is an indication of where things are headed in Nevada. While the state is certainly going to be close, I believe Trump is on track to secure a narrow victory here. My personal estimate is that he'll win by about 1 to 2 percentage points. To give you some context in the 2020 election, Joe Biden led in Nevada by an average of 5.3 heading into Election Day, but he ultimately only won the state by 2.4. This suggests that support for Trump has historically been underestimated in the polls, and that pattern may very well hold true in this election as well. Betting markets have reflected just how competitive Nevada is, with Harris holding a slight edge at 51 compared to Trump's 49. At this point, those numbers are essentially a statistical tie. In my view, Trump has the upper hand here. So I'm marking Nevada as tilt right on the map. A win in Nevada would be significant for Trump, especially since the GPA hasn't carried the state since 2004 when George W. Bush won it. However, Nevada's 6 electoral votes alone won't be enough to decide the election. There's no realistic scenario where Nevada is a must-win for either candidate, but it's definitely an important state to keep an eye on as we look at the broader electoral picture. Next, let's move over to Arizona. This is a state Trump must win if he wants any real chance of securing 270 electoral votes. Arizona flipped blue in the 2020 election, with Biden narrowly winning by 0.31. But now Trump has taken a strong lead. He's up by 1 spot. In the polling average, and nearly all of the recent polls have him on track to win the state. Harris led in Arizona briefly after the Democratic convention, but since then, Trump has consistently maintained a lead of around 1 to 2 points. This is more than enough to win the state, especially when you consider what happened in 2020. Back then, Joe Biden was supposed to win Arizona by 2.6 according to the polls, but he barely eked out a win by less than 1/3 of a percentage point. This suggests that the polling may once again be underestimating Trump's support in the state. The betting markets have also been bullish on Trump in Arizona. He's been favored throughout the entire election cycle, whether running against Biden or Harris. Ever since Harris peaked during the Democratic convention, Trump's lead has only grown. Pure fact. Trump's polling numbers now are about as strong as they were before Biden dropped out. The fact that Kamala Harris isn't performing better than Biden, despite all the efforts the Democratic Party made to replace him, could be a serious blow to her campaign. If Harris loses Arizona, it will be seen as a major mistake by Democrats for swapping out Biden. On my map, Arizona is going to be lean red, and I expect Trump to win it by just over 2. This would be the second flip in favor of Trump. Now, let's turn our attention to Georgia, where Trump is currently leading by 0.5, the polling average. Of the 9 most recent polls from the Peach State, Harris is ahead in just 2, with Trump leading in the rest. Trump's lead in Georgia has been building steadily, and it's hard to see that trend reversing at this point. While Kamala Harris was briefly ahead in early September, Trump has now taken control of the race. There's little doubt that Trump will carry Georgia. Fundamentally, the state is still more Republican than Democratic, which is why Brian Kemp won re-election as governor by a comfortable margin in 2022. The presidential race will be closer, but I expect Trump to win Georgia by about 2 points, especially considering he won the state by 5 points back in 2016. Georgia was one of the few swing states where polling was relatively accurate in 2020. Biden led by 1.2 heading into Election Day, and he eventually won the state by just 0.24. If the polling is accurate again this time around, Trump should be on track to win. The betting markets also show Trump with a growing lead. He now has a 64% chance of winning Georgia, nearly a 2/3 chance on the map. I'm marking Georgia as lean red, making it the third flip in Trump's favor. Next is North Carolina, another crucial swing state. Unlike Georgia, North Carolina isn't expected to flip because Trump won it in both 2016 and 2020. Trump is on track to win again this year with a 0.5 lead in the polling average. Out of the 8 most recent polls, Trump leads in 7 with 1 tie. Trump has been ahead throughout the year, and while his lead shrank at one point, he has since widened the gap. In 2020, Biden led in the polls by 1.8, but ultimately lost the state by 1.3. And this means that the polls underestimated Trump's support by about 3, and that pattern may hold true this time around as well. The betting markets are also favoring Trump, giving him a 63% chance of winning North Carolina. However, Trump's performance in North Carolina could be slightly affected by the scandals surrounding Mark Robinson, the Republican candidate for governor. Robinson's campaign has been marred by controversy, which could hurt the Gopis' chances down ballot. So I don't think it will be enough to drag Trump down at the top of the ticket. I expect Trump to win North Carolina by about 2, which is an improvement over his margin in 2020. On our map, North Carolina will remain lean red. Free Stafford Towers. With 4 states now solidly in Trump's column, his 268 electoral votes, just 2 short of the 270 needed to win. That means we still have 3 competitive states left that could push him over the finish line. Let's head up to Pennsylvania. This state, with its 20 electoral votes, is likely to be the tipping point that decides the election. And now Trump holds a razor-thin lead of 0.1, which may not sound like much, but it's a significant shift in a state that has been highly competitive throughout the campaign. If you look at the polling from 2020, Biden led by nearly 5 points in Pennsylvania, but he ended up winning by just 1.2. So for Trump to be leading at this point is a very good sign for his chances. The betting markets agree, giving Trump a 54% chance of winning compared to Harris's 47%. I believe Pennsylvania will lean red on election day, and if Trump wins here, the race is effectively over. Kamala Harris would have very few paths to 270 without Pennsylvania. Moving over to Michigan, this has been one of the biggest surprises of the election. Michigan has traditionally been the most liberal of the swing states, with Biden winning it by 2.8 in 2020. But today, Trump leads by nearly 1 point, a stunning reversal from where the race was just a few weeks ago. In 2020, Biden was polling to win Michigan by 7.9, but he only carried the state by 2.8. Given that polling has historically overestimated Democratic support in Michigan, Trump is in a very strong position to flip the state. The betting markets have taken notice. Harris's odds of winning Michigan have dropped from 68 to just 49. Trump is now favored to win. I'm marking Michigan as tilt red on the map. Lastly, we have Wisconsin, the final swing state in this election. Kamala Harris is still ahead here, but just barely. She leads by only 0.3. Given the trends we're seeing in neighboring Michigan and Pennsylvania, I expect Trump to overtake her soon. Wisconsin was another state where polling in 2020 was wildly inaccurate. Biden was expected to win by 8.4, but he ended up winning by less than 1. Given the polling errors and Trump's growing momentum, Wisconsin is likely to tilt red as well. In conclusion, based on the current polling and historical trends, Trump is on track to win 6 of the 7 swing states, which would give him a decisive electoral victory. Factoring in past polling errors, it's not out of the question that Trump could sweep all 7 swing states, which would give him over 300 electoral votes. This would mark a dramatic turnaround for the former president, who has now positioned himself as the clear frontrunner heading into the final stretch of the campaign. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates as we continue to track this historic election.